Okay. So everyone is here. I hope you're here for the lecture on the 3 pillars of mapping. Those who have been in the community for a while, you've seen me post my document on the 3 pillars of charting, which I'll partially be quoting, because I've written this, right? It's not that much text if you think about it, but I've written this, and this is really dear to me. So I'll be saying many things from this. Like what this lecture is going to be is like a video form of this with a few examples as well. The examples are from either my past maps or maybe maps I found today during the queue checking. It's just here to show how a map looks like when it doesn't follow that particular pillar of charting, and why it's not productive in order to make a good map. So if we take a look back to the first map we made, we switch the thingy again so you hear audio. Hopefully it works. Give me 1 minute. So if we go back to the map we made, which is a map on how do you do, right? Back then I already teased the 2 concepts that I'll be explaining right now, which are the first 2 concepts that I want to tell you about, which is song representation and consistency. The first one I want to talk about is song representation, which is supposed to be your main goal when mapping things. Why is it your main goal? Because, the reason why you map is most likely because you wanted to map a song that hasn't been mapped before, right? So you picked a song you liked, and then you went into the editor and then tried doing stuff. So your goal is song representation, because if song representation was not followed, then it wouldn't matter what kind of song you picked, the map would stay the same, right? So that's why you have to use song representation as your basis for mapping. What exactly do I mean by that? What I mean by that is whatever the song does should be reflected in your map. So I made an example earlier where I tried where one of the skills you need in order to follow song representation is you need to be able to analyze the song you're listening to. And we did that earlier by isolating the vocals with just by placing single notes, and also percussion by placing doubles wherever needed. Not here right now because I forgot to save, but I can go over to this one where we do have doubles, right? So this is like a basic application of song representation. We have the vocals, which are represented, and we have the doubles, which are also the percussion, which you also represent with doubles. So now we have a thing, right? So you can represent a sound or something in a song in multiple ways.
Hey, Ice.
Yes.
Is it me or is
everyone's complaining about your stream not loading?
Yeah, oh, really? Oh, my bad. Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, he's confused.
Okay, so again, we have the map we made earlier in the first lecture here, where we represented the vocals with single notes, and where we represented percussion with doubles. I'll play it again. So, and that's why we use the basic technique called layering, where we take multiple things that we isolate and mapping at the same time and putting them into the same map. And that's like one of the ways you can like start representing your song when there's multiple things going on. So now comes the issue. There's no correct way to make a map, because everyone listens to songs differently. And maybe song representation isn't the right word, but song interpretation is the better word, because you represent your interpretation of the song, if you get what I mean. Because just as an example, an older person who can't hear high frequencies as clearly as someone younger, right? they can't hear, maybe they can't hear the bell that's going on with the vocals in the very beginning. Like if you listen closely, with every vocal there's like a high-pitched bell playing with the vocal. And like if that were higher, someone, yeah, as mentioned, someone older with worse hearing might not be able to pick up on that. So their interpretation, or more like their listening experience, is different from others. It kind of begs the question of like, it's like when two people look at the same object, like an orange, right? Like is one, like the orange one person sees the same orange as what the other person sees? Like it's like that kind of thing. Everyone sees things differently. Yeah, exactly. Storm says this as well. It can be based on what sound equipment you use. If you have loudspeakers, it's different than just listening like from a phone speaker. So how you interpret the song is different. So, but also there are many correct ways to represent the same sound in the song. For example, here we have the vocals. And we chose, in this case, we chose single notes for that. But there's nothing wrong if we had used long notes as well. That's completely valid as well. And it changes the map later on if we were to use long notes for vocals. Both completely correct ways to map. However, now comes the question, if there are there's so many ways to map a thing. If you don't organize them, then your map's going to fall apart in chaos, which is where the second pillar of charting comes in, which is consistency. Consistency is here to help you manage your map. You listen to the song, you have ideas on how to represent them, and now you need to pull through by making rules that you yourself stick to. In this case, as mentioned, single notes for vocals and doubles for percussion. That's a very, very simple rule set that you can follow for mapping, right? But this rule set, right? I'll call them concepts, mapping concepts. It's something you set for yourself. You're here to set them for yourself. You're here. You're your own. Like your brain can think of a lot of stuff. It can be simple like this, or you can make more complex things. For example, it doesn't necessarily have to be long notes. Like if we were to go into a different direction, such as dumping, right? Where you place notes approximately, where not every single note represents something, but a group of notes represents one sound, right? This is also a very valid way of representing an extended sound, like a vocal. And how you organize this is determined by the concepts that you use. Another thing that flows into song representation is pitch relevancy, which I also covered, which is where you place lower pitched things on the left side of the playfield and higher pitched things on the right side of the playfield. And managing all of those concepts at the same time is what, first of all, coming up with concepts, not only simple concepts like this, but also trying to experiment with more complex concepts. And also being able to manage them at the same time. Because when you have many concepts going on at the same time, it's like more nodes on the screen when you play Quaver, right? Because when the map is faster, maybe you can't keep up with the map. You have to start low. You have to start with basic concepts and then work your way up, making more complex concepts. And then you have to recognize just add an order of pitch relevancy is based on piano. Lower sounds I did with the left key. Correct. It's like the piano. Lower sounds are on the left and higher sounds on the right. If you imagine on a piano, left-hand side is low and the right-hand side is high. Now, with consistency, like with song representation, there can be a lot of things going on in the song. And sometimes you have a lot of concepts going on in your mind, right? If I were to take everything, we can listen to this, right? If we listen to this again, we analyzed the song earlier. We have not only the vocal and the percussion here, we also have a low pitch. And also the aforementioned bell, right? Now we can also try and find concepts based on those sounds as well, right? But I think it's pretty clear to see if we add like maybe now we already run out of space if we don't like for the low pitch notes, right? And now if we want to add the bell in, right? Like how do you want to add the bell? Maybe with the grace. And you can see it's getting really crowded, right? And those are just all the things we recognized in the song, which is, well, not much. We have the percussion with the double, we have the bell, we have the vocal, and we have the low pitch whoop whoop, right? If you get what I mean. And already it's getting pretty crowded. And being able to manage all of these concepts is one part of being a mapper, because as you get more comfortable with mapping and the editor and applying basic concepts, it allows you to place more manage more complex concepts. But now comes the issue of recognizing when your concepts conflict with each other. Because at some point, if I were to choose more complex concepts, because as I mentioned, you could use dumping, all right, for the vocals. If I were to add this, right, there's like basically no space left. And it gets really messy and like hard to work around. And at some point, it's just too much, especially like in this section where we have to add double. If I were to apply the same concepts. And when you come up with these concepts, if you like right now, this is obviously overmapped, but like just imagine if the song were like more complex, more things going on. Think like Camellia songs where like 1,000 things are happening at the same time, right? You have to pick the things that you are going for. You have to plan ahead what concepts work together and how to make them work together. Because the hardest thing is when you have a concept, right? When you have a group of concepts and you put them together to make a pattern. When there's like only one or two variations left in the pattern that still follows all of the rules that you set for yourself. And at some point, maybe like the only way to keep the rules by using, but still using the same concepts is by mirroring. But if you do that, then the map's going to get repetitive. So you have to loosen the rules a little bit to allow for variation, right? So it's all about this back and forth of managing concepts until you find the thing that you as a mapper are not only comfortable with, but also try your best to make as creative as possible in order to make for an interesting map. The last thing, the last pillar of charting, which is intention, I'll touch up in a minute. But I just want to show a few examples of where song representation and consistency are broken and how that affects the map. So, wait, let me pull up my notes. Earlier I reviewed a map called Angel of Darkness, right? And Angel of Darkness here, at the very beginning you can already see an issue. Oh wait, was it this song? No, it wasn't this song. I'm kind of, wait. Which one was it? Oh yeah, it was this song, my bad, not Angel of Darkness. I think Angel of Darkness was something different, yeah. This song has clear percussions on a 3/4 beat. So there's one percussion here, here, and here, which you can clearly see in the waveform. But those were ignored in the map. Instead, you have a constant one half rhythm, which is obviously not representative of the song. The percussion, which is in the song, is not represented anywhere in the map. So it just feels like you're playing a lifeless thing, a map separate from the song. Two things that don't belong together, right? So it creates like that sort of disassociation, which you want to avoid. You want to have your song, like your map, be as accurate to the song as possible. Well, not as accurate as possible, but it's supposed to represent it. Otherwise, you might as well use a different song, as I mentioned. And then additionally, there's no care to put into how vocals are represented. Like you can also choose to not represent them at all, right? But if that's not representative of the song, because there are vocals, but if you don't represent them, even though they're a major part of the song, right? A major part of the song, it's best if you try to represent it somehow. And whether you use like short long notes, like whatever, it's best to have something in the song that shows whatever they're here. Right? So this is like one instance where song representation is broken. Song representation is not only like following the song accurately, because it's also following the intensity of the song. You want to have your difficulty, right? This is also like it goes into song representation. If your difficulty balancing of the map is wildly different, like you want your map to be easy when the song is calm, right? Obviously, and you want it to be hard when the song is intense. So this is like also something you have to pay attention to. And there's also not only that, but also hold up. Sorry. There's difficulty also plays a huge part, but this can interfere with consistency and the final part of intention. I'll get to that. Next of all, what we want to take a look at is consistency, which I hope I have the right map for. I think it's still this one. It kind of violates both. Because if we look here, this is an Elena map, right? But if we take a look at how it's structured, one easy way to take a look at how it's structured, let's ignore the LNs for a second. Let's ignore them. I'll just put this to 30% so we only see the regular notes. So what we have here is we have some sort of jump stream, right? But now we have to pay attention to, let's try to pay attention to when they use doubles or triples and how it changes throughout the map. So you saw the mapper used triples here, right? The triples here, but like there is nothing in the song or like nothing in the map indicating why this should be triples at all. Like there's only the percussion and the vocals that are like mainly being mapped, but there's no reason to put triples here. So this would violate not only consistency but also song representation, right? And in this case, it would violate the rules you set for yourself. So having consistency violated like that is not good. It's I think give me a moment. Maybe if I can think of an example where I think I have an example. There. So a collab is obviously, right, you have multiple mappers map on different sections of the song. And this can result in multiple people mapping the same section in very different ways, right? And also in various different difficulties if it's not coordinated well. So what can happen is like you have a very, very inconsistent map, because the map is consistent inside of one section because one mapper mapped it, but as soon as you compare that section to other sections, it becomes inconsistent. Even though the sections by themselves, as they are mapped, are correct song representation. Yeah, so that's like one example where, but in that case, in collabs, it's kind of ignored because the purpose of a collab is to induce exactly that, seeing different styles on one map. But if you were to map that for yourself, you should only do it if the song changes, right? So I'll talk about intention as my last thing, which coincidentally, I got a perfect map as the last map I checked in order to display intention. Intention is the desire to make a playable and fun map. And while everything about this map is technically consistent, right? It's technically consistent and represents the song. It just asks to play. So there's no attention put into how the map plays in terms of gameplay and difficulty, but also you have a like, right. So there's no care put into making a solid or playable and enjoyable map. This is mapped mostly for difficulty, if anything. So this is also where intention comes in. Like, if you're a player, then intention is what comes to you most naturally. But it's like, which is why it's pretty rare to see maps that are consistent and represent the song, but are totally violate intention. Now, let's go to the second part of the lecture, which is song choice. How song choice affects your map, your ability to map as well, and also the end result of the map. Because obviously with song representation, your aim is to make a map that represents the song. But with that also comes, well, okay, let's ask the question. Why did they pick exactly this song to map, right? Why not a different song? Because some songs are harder to map than others. And conversely, some songs are easier to map than others. Because not a lot is going on in here, but if you take something like, I don't know, a Camellia song where there's a lot going on, of course, it's going to be harder to map than this. Because there's a lot more going on, you have to create more concepts, manage more concepts in your head. Well, yeah, it's like if there's more going on, there's more to map, and then it's harder. It's like if a map has more nodes, it's harder to play, obviously. So, but because you're bound by song representation, there's some undesirable things in terms of what songs can offer that lead to a poor gameplay experience. First of which I want to cover is repetition. Because if we follow song representation, then that means if the song repeats, then your map should also repeat. Now, of course, it sounds good on one hand, but you can also very easily imagine scenarios where it's not good. Because when a song repeats quite often, then the map is going to repeat quite often as well. For example, I'll just pick a drum and bass song, right? If we pick a drum and bass song like or like something so we have like, well, just for example, because it's just drum and bass that kind of repeats, right? It's just consistent drum and bass. So you're going to struggle to find a concept that can accommodate the song while not making it boring. Because of course you as a player, you know why you want to avoid overly repetitive gameplay. If I were to just copy and paste this part I've mapped and then copy it over and over and over to another map, another section in the song, then the map's going to be repetitive even if you mirror it now and then. Of course, if you only do it a few times, then no one's going to notice. But still, of course, it's in your best interest to not have your map repetitive. Unfortunately, as mentioned, some songs are just incredibly repetitive. For example, drum and bass. If you take, like, some people who come from Osu know, like certain drum and bass songs where it's just 5-note streams, right? It's just, in Osu it works because you have visual variation, but in Quaver it doesn't work as well because you're just playing 5-note bursts, drum stream bursts maybe. And then you're going to struggle to find ways to make variations of that without it becoming boring. Another thing where things repeat quite often is, for example, on video game themes, right? If you have a field theme in a video game that's designed to stay relatively close, like in intensity, so it doesn't vary that much in intensity, but also is designed to repeat. Because if you're in an area and the song repeats and repeats and repeats, like you don't want to hear the one point where you know, oh, now the song is repeating. You want to have a seamless experience when the song is looping. So one thing I can show is a video game theme I mapped. This is Time to Fight, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition battle theme, and it repeat, like in this case it's fine. It's relatively fine because it repeats with small variations. Right. So you maybe you're thinking that it's not repeating that much, but that's only because I cut the song to 2 minutes 30. The original theme is 8 minutes long, and basically repeats by itself. But if you're mapping in 4K, you have to find ways to make it interesting. Which is most of the time why I discourage people to map video game themes. Which I think I also had a recent. I have another song, like Last Stand, right? It's a good song if you want to chill, but it's like it's just this. It's just repetitive, right? Is there one more part? I think that's it to show repetitiveness. So that's like one of the things that's undesirable when picking a song. And if you pick a song that's repetitive, then you can end up with a repetitive map, and it's going to make it harder for you to be creative with your patterns. So another undesirable trait in a map is having massive disparities between the most calm section and the most intense section. Because as a player, if you imagine someone who can play 30 rated maps, then it doesn't really matter whether they play a 1 rated map or a 10 rated map. They're still gonna be similarly like challenged, if you get what I mean. Like the challenge isn't that much different because it's still super easy. They're way past 10 rating. They can play 30s. They can maybe even go for like FCs on the first try. That's like no challenge. So if you have a song that has a lot of downtime and very little uptime, then you're gonna force the player to play a lot of easy stuff. Like either you have a bad player who plays the easy stuff and is challenged, and then they get to the hard part, and then they die, or you get a player who can manage a hard part but gets bored by the easy part. One clear example that I want to show for this is, I'm sorry, okay, it's still you. You can see it's 11 minutes long, and you force the player to sit through like 60% of gameplay that looks like this. So now as a player you have to decide, am I gonna sit, do I have the skill to play this potentially, and do I want to sit through 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes of this, right? This is like, right? Because it's funny. When I saw your name, I thought of that map instantly. Because the map itself in the hard parts is really interesting, right? I'd love to play that if only this entire part were cut. So that's like also one other undesirable thing in your map. If there's a lot of downtime, then there's less uptime. Uptime in which the player is having fun. You get what I mean? I made that mistake myself with one of the very few maps I don't even have downloaded for myself. If I type something here, this is the one map set that I despise for myself. If I could delete, this is one of the map sets I wish I could unrank, because this has the exact same issue. Yeah, you can see it. Like, there's a lot of downtime where you're not really doing anything. And this part, you're not really doing anything as well when you compare it to these parts. Like you can see here. Right? But then you force the player to go through this for like a minute or two. So that's like also something you have to look out for. And like if you pick, and of course, another thing that's undesirable for mapping is, well, variable BPM songs, like live mapped songs, where you end up with maps like Caravan, where you're gonna be spending half your time timing the damn thing, because this has like what? How many timing points? I don't even know. It's gotta be something like 2,000, almost 2,000 timing points. When you're busy making a new timing point for every beat, right? Because it's live played. And you can see, maybe if I turn on the plugin, that the BPM varies wildly. You can see it's going wild, right? And you don't want to spend all your time like timing the damn thing, right? We're way better off just mapping something else. Have been pink. Why have been pink? Would it be optimal to add SV in sections? SVs are another tool that's like another dimension to the player. But if you have a map like what I showed earlier with Still You, even if you put slow jam in, it's not going to be that much of a challenge because you're playing long notes at half a note per second. Also, I think these are like Quaver has a lot of trouble rendering plugins that draw a lot of things. So I might have to force close Quaver. Whoops. 2 FPS. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is how song choice affects you and your map, which is why you have to be mindful of whether the song you're mapping is good for you to map in the first place. Let me whip up Quaver again. For everyone who's read my document on the 3 pillars of charting, right? Those are like the 3. I've covered the 3 points already. But if you look on the document, there's a secret 4th pillar, which stands on top of the 3 pillars, which is identity, which is where your mastery around managing map concepts becomes so great that you are able to plan to have one map concept and apply it throughout the entire map. It requires careful planning and careful planning ahead, because if you make a map and you decide to change your global map concept, then you can start remapping. Because no, I did not end stream intentionally. I had to close Quaver because 2 FPS bug. Here's this going. So if you have a global map concept and you want to apply to the thing, right? It requires extreme mastery of managing concepts. For example, one of the maps I like to show is Lilith. I've done this so many times. People are probably tired of this map, but like the global map concept of this map is having a 3-note stair for every vocal. Let me go to where's the beginning? So if we look here, right, the global map concept here, 3-note stair, 3-note stair. So I have a 3-note stair on every vocal. This is like the global map concept. This is a concept I came up with when I started mapping the chorus first, which one tip: if you map the chorus first, you can plan around the map way easier. This is the map concept I decided on. 1/6 stair burst with 1/4 filler in between. And then I applied this concept to the entire map. Right? With a few variations here and there. But yeah, so this is like one global map concept that you can come up with. Another one that I've mapped recently is change. Where the global map concept here is using this pattern. Like this is the pattern that I came up with, which is like a back and forth, right, on one side. And you can see that pattern like happen here as well. The snake, right? This is the entire concept I base my map upon. And this making a global map concept, this is where the true mastery of a mapper comes to light. Because if you're able to make a creative global map concept and apply it to a song in a good manner, then this also allows you to be creative with your own ways. Because if you have a global map concept and you force yourself to use it, then you find yourself using it in ways that you haven't thought of using before. Because I kind of forced myself, right? It kind of sounds bad because I forced myself to use like dumping concepts, but by using a lot of dumping concepts, I found myself able to come up with newer concepts which, for example, polyrhythm stairs here, for example, like this is like crazy stuff that I hadn't come with, and it's only possible because I sticked to a global map concept and try to pull it through with thinking a lot of variations that I can use it in. So identity. Let's make identity concise. As long as you're aware of your identity, it doesn't have to be like a global map concept like you already know here. But as long as you're aware of your identity, whether you're a player who's just making a practice map for yourself, obviously you don't have to care about song representation and consistency that much. Like if you're just making, if you're a chord player and you're just making a chord map just for practice without regard of whether it's like a good map or not, as long as you're aware of that, it's good. Being aware of what your map is, not only to you, but also to other players, is important, because then you can plan around of how you want your map to be perceived. For example, when I mapped out on that song, I didn't map it because I meant for it to be a masterpiece. It's not. It's far from that. I just wanted to play chord tricks to a song. So I didn't put much mind into making a global map concept, right? I am aware of the identity. It's not directly for fun. I just want to play chord tricks. I was aware of the map identity, and I mapped with the map identity in mind, which is just playing this chord trick. And then being aware of it doesn't only have to be that. Like if you're aware of your map being a chord trick map, then go ahead and make a chord trick map. If you want to make a jump stream map, go ahead and make a jump stream map. Maybe you want to make an incredibly hard LN map, right? So it's a hybrid, right? As long as you're aware of how your map is going to be perceived by other players, whether players are going to play your map because it's good, it's creative, or whether they're going to play it just for the pattern. As long as you're aware of that, you can plan ahead better. And that's the secret fourth pillar of the three pillars of charting, in my opinion. What makes the map different, or how is it perceived? So yeah, this I think concludes my lecture to the three pillars of charting and how song choice affects your map. 45 minutes. Pretty good. If you have any questions, post them now so I can answer them in the recording. So yeah, go ahead, shoot your questions if you have any. You still haven't submitted change self-cover for rank? Yeah, because change is 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Or like 2 minutes and 13. 2 minutes and 9. I can't submit it to rank. Unless I make another difficulty. I don't want to submit it to rank first. I want to make a lower difficulty before I do it. So yeah. Briefly mentions song choice. But do you have anything to say on the idea of cutting songs and like how it can affect chartability? Now, of course, cutting songs always means that you'll lose a part of the song's identity, right? It's like if you cut away part of an image, suddenly the image is different. If you cut a full body image to a portrait, it's a different thing. You lose information. But you can also like put more focus onto what you want. Because if you had fancy makeup on your face, right? If you have fancy makeup on your face, then you wouldn't want to take a full body shot because you want to put focus on your face because you put fancy makeup on it, right? So maybe what you do instead is you zoom into, or like you crop your full body image and pose the one that only has your face instead, your portrait. And similarly, you have to be, it depends on the person whether you're comfortable with cutting away part of the song's identity in order to make it more appealing to also map and play. Because there's like plenty of like cut versions in rank. If I check, we have cut there, right? How much do we have? Right? Maybe it's laziness. Maybe the song just repeats too much. Maybe maybe just lazy. Most of the time it's probably just lazy. But like in for example, what I showed before Still You, I think I would have preferred having the map cut from this section out instead, right? Or maybe starting from here somewhere Even though you cut away like the journey up to the finale of the song, it would have provided a better gameplay experience, right? What you can all like, another thing you could do is you could instead split up this map, like not have a single map, but have 3 separate maps that have this section, and this section respectively, right? This is also something you can do. You don't have to cut away a song, you can just cut it apart. Damn, 3 ranks, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the idea of cutting songs is not new. Like, as I've shown you already, as long as you're comfortable with cutting away the song's identity, it's fine. If it makes it better to, like, more appealing to play or to chart, go ahead, as long as you're okay with it. Unfortunately, you can't do it the other way around, where you extend the song, so you don't only have to map one difficulty, but oh well. Cutting songs also helps map pulling when you need to have the pull a certain length. Yeah, that's also one purpose. Like in this case, this is cutting away part of the song's identity in order to make it more appealing to play. Cutting is good when lazy to map. Yeah, exactly, as mentioned. This is what happened with Autonatsu, basically. I mean, I do have a map of the full version of the song, but the others were probably just lazy. I don't know. I know at least PL was lazy. He said, please take the cut version so I don't have to map that much. Anything else? If not, then I'll stop the recording. Thank you everyone for watching the lecture. I hope you enjoyed it.